Welcome to Infocus. Now, history shows people of the world have traveled for the many thousands of years according to science here in Papua New Guinea. Science tells us our people, our forefathers arrived here a little over 60 to 50,000 years here in Papua New Guinea. Now, in Papua New Guinea and certainly throughout the world, people are still moving, basically during the past to find new land, new opportunities, a better life. But at present, for various reasons, people fled war, violence, and oppression, persecution to new lands. And here in Papua New Guinea, we've certainly seen that from the boat people that arrived in Australia and made their way in country to Papua New Guinea, and of course, our friends from across the border, from the western part of the island of New Guinea into the eastern part where we are today. And I'm privileged to have with me in the studio two gentlemen from the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and also Caritas, who work especially with this sort of people that arrive in the country in the search for a better life. So Jason Siwat, who's the Director for Migrants and Refugees for CBCPNG and Solomon Islands, and also Don from Caritas and also CBCPNG and Solomon Islands. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. All right, so we'll start off with you, Jason. Jason, you have been dealing with refugees and migrants here in Papua New Guinea, especially under the banner of the church. Tell us about your work.
Okay. Thank you, Bradley, and firstly, thank you for having us on this program, Infocus. The work of the Catholic Church in Papua New Guinea in relation to migrants or refugees, people who were displaced, have been happening for many, many years. In 1984, 1983, around the time when the first wave of asylum seekers from West Papua came into Papua New Guinea, they basically settled along the border regions of the country. So the Catholic Diocese of Kiunga and Wanimo have been engaging with those people, trying to provide basic welfare needs. So my work at the moment as a director of this Migrants and Refugees desk is basically to work with these people and to see where there is a lack of some attention, or at least a lack of engagement by respective service providers or the government. We step in to try to advocate for them and identify what are some also programs that we on our capacity can try to support. So at the desk, the Catholic Bishop Desk for Migrants and Refugees has been established just recently this year, but the engagement of the church became more active, at least in the last 2 to 3 years, when the Catholic Bishop Conference became involved more directly with the case on Manus Island, where the refugees and asylum seekers were, processed and kept there. So at the stage, we are working with all these people who are still remaining in Papua New Guinea, as well as West Papuans refugees and other refugee groups who have arrived in country individually, or we call them spontaneous arrivals. So we are dealing with them at least on a regular basis, daily, not weekly.
All right, so we still have some of these people within the country. First of all, those that arrive in Australia and were sent over to Manus Island. So what is the sort of engagement now that the church is having with these people?
Yeah, for these people particularly, we are engaged that I'm more or less directly working with them, while my colleague Don is working more directly with the West Papuan group. So we are working with them at different levels. Individually, we have some refugees who have gotten married to nationals, PNG women, and have established families. So we work with them as individuals and also as family units. We have a day-to-day, I have a day-to-day communication with them on WhatsApp and even on email. So I have also go to see them at their respective residences to try to understand what the situation is like, because they have been here for 8 years. So, and most of them have succumbed to severe stress and anxiety. Mentally ill, some of them, and they are so stressed. So we pay attention to this group of people to try to, vouch for them if there is a need for particular attention from the government or service providers who are engaged to, provide services to them. And we also support those families in various levels, like obtaining marriage certificate, for instance, or obtaining a birth certificate for their child, or if there is outstanding documents with the PNG migration that they are following up on, and they feel that they need our help. That's where we try to step in and find out, and try to visit the PNG migration and understand what's the situation, and at least try to help them get those legal documents.
All right. So you spoke about the meeting these different people, and they have been in a facility for a while. It's sort of to me, it's they want to see their freedom, want to move on in life, and they're brought in here and put in a facility. When they speak to you, does that affect you?
Bradley, certainly. People came from various backgrounds. Some of them have undergone very ordeal, circumstances, like they have been subject to torture, or their family members have been killed and they fled because of that. They escaped that. They came as far as Iran, Afghanistan, those countries that are known for war and, terrorist activities. Even in Pakistan, in Sudan, Somali, who escaped from, reasons like they've been persecuted for their religion or their ethnicity or their political opinion, basically, like in country like and in Iran, when you talk against the government, there are very stringent and tough laws that penalizes this kind of anti-government behavior or attitude. So when they speak to you and they explain those things, and you are in a position that you want to listen and understand it. So of course, there is this transfer of sort of the level of trauma they have gone through. You kind of feel it yourself when you try to understand and put yourself in their situation, because that's basically what you want to do. You want to understand well before you can find out which intervention is appropriate in their case. So certainly there's a lot. It's demanding, you have to be mentally strong in order to talk to these people, to share some of the very personal things that they don't say even with their friends. So they have to have confidence in you. You have to build a relationship with them before they start to tell you things, and it's very it can affect you really, really strongly, emotionally or mentally. So yes, it's really
Yeah. All right. So conversations on refugees and migrants, basically, here in Papua New Guinea. We continue with more on this after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus, still on the discussions around refugees, migrants into Papua New Guinea, and with a particular focus on the CBC and Caritas role in all of this. So, gentlemen, before the break, we spoke about the boat people that came to Australia, on to Manus, and of course here in Papua New Guinea. But also, we've seen people who have crossed the border from the other side into Papua New Guinea earlier than this. And are with us here in Papua New Guinea. They're not in a secured facility. They're moving around freely. And Don, you're now in charge of the desk that looks after the interest of these people. You yourself have crossed the border into Papua New Guinea. When did you actually come over? And tell us about your role now with CBC and Caritas.
Thank you, Bradley, and good evening to audience. Yeah, I deal with the West Papuan's group in CBC, and I crossed over the border in 2016 from the southern border. And when I cross over the border, I feel like euphoria of freedom. Yeah, and I would encourage Papua New Guineans that you have to honor your freedom in your country. You are privileged to born and raised up in a Christian country. For us back home, we don't have any that kind of freedom. Whenever we gather for our aspiration, it's always being intimidated, and the Indonesian security guard always surveillance us, watching us like we are terrorists or what. And also our freedom of religions also not really like in PNG. Freedom of our rights as indigenous people also are not free. Is always being intimidated, and for us to deal with the West Papua refugees, they are the first refugees to cross over the border since 1960. The big massive refugees influx in 1984, which is more than 10,000 refugees are fled to PNG seeking refuge. So that's what West Papua refugees they experience in the exiled country. And yes, they are here, they're free to move, yet still they have the difficulties in access of education, health, and also especially the shelter and land. So this is the hardship of the refugees that in PNG.
All right. So you spoke about rights and of course the practice of religion. Are you a Christian? And what about the rights? You spoke about the rights. What rights do you hope to see these people receive?
Yeah, for the rights of the refugees in the country of exile or asylum, they need rights for education, rights for health, rights for welfare, like other refugees. In terms of rights of political rights, they need freedom to go, freedom as independent states. So the human rights violation in back home West Papua can be ended soon. That is the one of the solution. And so the refugees in PNG, they still need a lot of rights. West Papuans, they need rights for education and other access to these humanitarian needs.
All right. So basically, when you are talking with those here already in Papua New Guinea, have you been reaching out to those in Vanimo and those over in the bottom end of the country and then also in other parts of the country, for example, Isipik, where they are?
So far, I never been there yet. Only I in touch with the West Papua refugees in Port Moresby. But we are looking forward to, because of this pandemic, so some of our movement are a little bit restricted, and also the COVID protocol. So we hope that after this situation back to normal, we hope that we have the access to other provinces as well to identify the West Papua refugees, what their needs and what their situation is.
All right. So you spoke about the timely access of services that they require. In terms of their paperwork with those authorities here in Papua New Guinea, how active are the officers working with these people to actually see that some of their paperwork is done and done properly so that they can access education and other services here in PNG?
Yeah, for the purpose of protection, there is a NEC decision in 2014. It is there are 7 points. So the 6 points about the protection and paperwork for the in terms of citizenship. So all of us are aware that PNG government granted citizen for West Papuans without paying 10,000 kina fees for any West Papuan refugees. And in that point 7 of NEC tools also stated that the PNG government should provide a state land for those West Papuans granted citizens. But so far we understand that so far there is there is no land for the West Papuans in terms of lands, especially because the significant needs right now for West Papua refugees in Port Moresby and other provinces, they need a state land for those who granted citizens. Yeah. So, in terms of education, it is quite difficult for West Papuans sometimes because they are consider them as refugees. They look at them as refugees. It is indirectly it's kind of discriminations, and also it's about the health side. The patients still have the kind of discrimination because they are refugees. They are legal. They are illegal. For example, like one of them tried to seek a humanitarian help, but consider his status as illegal, so they cannot help. So this is still ongoing issues, and also PNG also signed the UN Convention 1951 for refugees, but still unimplemented, like rights to education, rights to welfare, and rights to health, and other things. So in terms of paperwork, we believe that PNG government will do this, will put it into action, into real action, and to do more for the West Papua refugees.
All right. Some challenges there revealed to us and told to us from those that are directly in charge of assisting those that are in need here in PNG. We'll go for a short break and come back on the other side with more. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus. Now, Jason, we understand that Papua New Guinea is a signatory to the bigger conventions that actually caters for migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers throughout the world. Just a bit of background on that.
Thank you, Bradley. It is a very good thing for us to discuss, for the purpose of the general audience and the public to understand why we are discussing this issue. So Papua New Guinea, in fact, is in 1984 has signed the Convention on Refugees, the 1951 Convention on Refugees, which gives Papua New Guinea government a responsibility or obligation to provide refugee status or provide protection to people who have actually fled their countries and seeking protection or asylum in our country. So Papua New Guinea, as well as countries like New Zealand or Australia, all of these countries have signed up to this very important convention. And this convention was basically created during the aftermath of World War II to take care of those people who have been displaced around Europe. But then in 1967, another instrument was put in place that basically removes the geographical limitation, so it extends to all parts of the world, and also the date line, or the date limitation, which initially was for people who have been displaced before the end of World War II. So when the 1967 protocol was introduced, which Papua New Guinea is also a signatory to, it removes this time limitation as well as geographical limitations. And every country in the world who want to contribute to participate in the international community of sharing the burden of taking care of refugees and asylum seekers have acceded to this important convention. So Papua New Guinea did so in 1984, which gives Papua New Guinea the obligation, and now the government, and why we are discussing this issue is because Papua New Guinea has an obligation in this very international instrument.
Okay, so you are working under the church banner on this. Yes. What's the church's perspective on this or stand?
Yeah, so the church's involvement in this is basically what we continue to say is that it's more on a humanitarian sort of angle, humanitarian lens. The church has a moral duty to look out for those who are displaced, those who are vulnerable, those who are at the lowest of the society. And these people is also part of this group. They're vulnerable, they don't have roots, family connections when they arrive in our country. And so it's only fitting that an organization like a church, an entity like church, look and try to understand the situation and intervene to assist them. And that's why the Catholic Bishop Conference has taken active role in the plight and sort of the situation of these people, trying to help them where we can.
All right. So I understand that it's not only the Christians you are working with, but also other faiths as well.
Yes, definitely. So in my previous statement, I mentioned that people came as far as Iran and as far as Afghanistan, Pakistan. So majority of those group of people are Muslims or the followers of the Islam faith. And when they arrived in our country, Papua New Guinea is predominantly Christian population. But when we engage with them, we definitely don't see this barrier or the difference in the religion and whatsoever. We see them as another human being who is out there needing help and needing some compassion. And so this is the approach we have been taking so far in assisting them wherever we can. And to tell you the fact, at some point, some of them even tell us that they want to convert, but it's up to them. It's a personal choice anyone can make wherever you are. It's your own conviction to the cause or to the belief, to the opinion that you have. So we respect that. In our intervention is nothing to do with influencing any person's attitude or any person's political view, religious view. This is something that they will have to do it on their own wishes. We only engage with them to support them, to see where they can find a durable solution. Durable solution basically means they have to live their life like any other human being, establish life with dignity, and start up their family and move on.
In the earlier part of our conversation, you spoke about those that already have families here in Papua New Guinea, especially those who came to Manus. Are you also dealing with their families, or you're just dealing with the refugees here?
Yeah, as I mentioned briefly, is that our engagement it's not really strict, it's not really guided, but it's on a case-by-case basis or needs basis. So we engage with them with the attention given to them as a refugee family or a family belonging to a refugee in Papua New Guinea. So we attend to their needs when they approach us. We see them as this is a refugee family that we need to assist. And one of the main thing that we try to assist and they come to us for assistance is documents, legal documents like marriage certificate, their children's birth certificate or ID, national ID, because most of these refugee families are still in the process of applying for third country resettlement, which means they can go to US, Canada, any other country in the Europe which accept them to go and settle there. It's called resettlement. And so they need those documents for their cases or their application to be processed and be accepted. And this is one of the key challenges they feel, and they approach us to try to help them have all these documents in place so that when they're required to produce them, they provide them so that the application for resettlement can be processed.
All right. So Don, is that also the same issue that the West Papuans have faced here in PNG?
For the West Papuans, before the government give them a PRP, they call it a permissive resident permit. But for the Manus case, they provide with the RSD, refugee status determinations. So it is a quiet difference. So far, also we have spontaneous arrival from West Papua in 2019. They fled the country because of the persecutions. So they are in Kiunga, 143 of them. So this group, they will come under the process of the refugee status determinations. That's what we have information from the government, PNG government. So for the side of the documents, it's quite different. Since 1984 until today, some of them are still holding the PRP without granted citizens too. But we thank that government, since the government of Peter O'Neill, Honorable Peter O'Neill, that's granted them 10,000 free, without paying 10,000 kina for granted citizens. So this is a very good move by PNG government. So, and also we need the current government, also the future government, to do more for the West Papua refugees as well, and also other refugees too. Oh. So that's what we can appeal.
We hope for the best for those who are with us here in PNG. Now, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on to the program to speak about this important topic here in PNG.
Thank you, Bradley.
All right. So if you have comments about our program tonight, you can email us on the email now showing on your screen, or you can also engage social with us on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And also, you can watch this program a little later on YouTube. From all of us here, thank you very much for your time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.